And that was the first time I realized we don't have to have some intermediary in between all the time. Things can be built on a P2P basis. And that's probably a better way to bring things on chain, to increase that transparency, to put that accountability out there for everyone to audit and no one to tamper with the infrastructure. Trust should be earned on a constant basis, and trust should be verifiable on a constant basis. That is a fundamental philosophy and belief that we have as an organization. The fact that we have been investing very heavily in the self-custody technology and the wallet and product infrastructure is an important, actually a critical piece of how we actually view trust. I think people are underestimating what Bitcoin will do. I really believe that with stablecoin getting more widely adopted, people will be surprised how that actually feed into wider adoption of Bitcoin.
We're very excited for another episode of the New Money podcast. With us today, Hong, president of OKX, one of the 5 largest crypto exchanges in the world, 60 million active users across multiple geographies, and one of the first pre-approved for MiCA in Europe and just recently re-entered the US. So I think there's lots of stuff to talk about. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. Thanks for joining us here, Hong.
Thank you for having me, Fernanda. Is that how I should pronounce your name? Ferdinand
is exactly right. Ferdinand, exactly. I've been spending quite a bit of time in the US, and I think also the Americans have a hard time pronouncing it. They always go with Freddie. But yeah, it's like a German name.
Yes.
I think we want to run through a couple of topics, right? Want to kind of learn more about your journey. Want to learn obviously about the journey of OKX and the broader evolution of the crypto market as you guys perceive it. We want to talk about the future. Where's the market going in your opinion, and how are you guys shaping it and driving that future? We want to spend some time talking about regulation, right, our favorite topic, and trust, and how OKX is championing that and building products to support that. Maybe if we kind of jump right in, I'd love to get your journey. You've been at Goldman for 8 years, I think. How did you end up here, and how did that play out?
Yeah, I think I was lucky. I spent 8 years at Goldman within financial institutions team on the investment banking side. So I actually had the opportunity right after 2008 financial crisis to get my initial professional training on Wall Street. It was actually good exposure, good training, good learning. And then when I left Goldman, I got into growth equity investment. And that was when I got to know Star, the founder. And his platform back then was called OKCoin. It was the largest crypto platform in China. And I ended up investing on behalf of my previous boss into OKCoin. And that was how I actually got to know Star, got to know the business, and also got my first exposure to Bitcoin, official exposure to Bitcoin. And I think it was a big milestone moment for me, because before that, I had a lot of questions during my Wall Street experience, seeing the cycle that has been playing out again and again, and all the kind of pains and system issues that we've had. Those questions lingered until I got to know Bitcoin, and I realized, actually, you know what? This is something that can be totally new. It actually disrupts how, not only, how I view the financial sector as I was trained in Goldman, but actually how I look at the whole setup, even from my academic experience in economic training, economics, and how people see money. And that was the first time I realized, you know what, we don't have to have some intermediary in between all the time. Things can be built, on a P2P basis. And that's probably a better way to bring things on chain, to increase that transparency, to put that accountability out there for everyone to audit, and no one to tamper with the infrastructure. And the infrastructure itself has a life of its own, with good incentives built into the system that incentivize every stakeholder to actually work for the common good, which was eye-opening. So that was essentially how I got into crypto. And I think I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to get into this, and I never regretted it. It was one of the best decisions I've made.
I can imagine. I'd love to unpack that a bit for the broader audience. What were the specific observations from traditional finance and your time in the markets where you kind of zoomed out and thought, okay, this is actually kind of broken and there must be a better way to do this?
Yeah, I think when you look at how the financial system works on the surface, you see the financial crisis happen in cycles. And every time something in the market broke down, in 2008 was the mortgage-backed securities broke down because of the layers of intransparency and people take things for granted. Everyone believes that whatever was packaged into that bundle has already been vetted by other people. It's actually good risk, and it can be blindly distributed across the system. And that continued until things proved that actually that was not right. That was not the case. And there was a lot of bad credit being distributed into the system far beyond people's comprehension. So I think that level of transparency, the level of accountability, the ability to actually verify things in itself was an issue for that specific case. And we actually see that in many other situations. And if you take a step further, we see a lot of imbalances in the system, in the financial system, not only in the financial system, but also in the broader society as a whole. And there is a great division between the haves and have-nots. That division between haves and have-nots has also progressed into generational division, where the boomers had more resources at hand when the younger generation, just the fact that they're newly out of school or still in school, having a lot of student loans on them. They don't really have much resources, and the system out there is already flooded with newly printed money. So the asset prices has been too much for them to catch on. And it's just a lot of stress and disparity when they realize they really have no chance of building their life of their own, just like their previous generations could have been able to do. So I think that level of division was built into the system. On top of the transparency, there is the issue of money printing and how monetary policies are being handled in every jurisdiction, and how the overall financial system is actually built on that credit-based system. There are a lot of assumptions of, for example, that inflation is good. The other assumption is credit is always good. And those assumptions, when you combine them together, it create a lot of issues where asset price continue to go up because there's really no way down, because the inflation is there. And when the asset price continues to grow, people who have not resources, they really have no chance to get their life back. And people who have resources, or even people like, ordinary people like you and me who, maybe don't have that legacy resources, but actually earn our own living. Once we earn our living, we have to put our money to work somehow. And every one of us is forced to be a asset manager of ourselves. Otherwise, we the hard money we earn through hard work lose value over time. So that in itself is actually built into the system. And then the credit-based economy, just given how the monetary framework actually runs in modern society, is very much driven by credit. And that is a pretty vicious cycle in its own. And you have all the partial reserve system in the banking system as well, which again created imbalances. And whenever that coupled with the lack of transparency in the system, lack of auditability, once there's one single pocket in the system that went wrong, it quickly becomes contagious in the overall system and actually pull the whole system down because of that setup. So I think all these are actually correlate with each other. And the only, I went to Chicago for business school, and there was a lot of macroeconomics and free market theory that has won the school a lot of reputation in the academics. I've always been a big fan of free markets, but until I got to understand a Bitcoin, then I realized, what, there is also how to say it. It's not almost like a fake free market theory when the underlying monetary system is not free market. It's very hard to actually have a free market build on top of it because the price signal is wrong. The price signal is actually expressed in monetary policy, which has some built-in inflation in it. Once the system actually feeds on it, it's almost like drugs. You cannot really get yourself off it by itself unless you do it through some violence, crisis, or society upheaval, and then you restart that again. And I think Bitcoin is still a way to actually build that honesty into the system and the underlying infrastructure. And then maybe on top of it, there's a chance to build a more honest system to help. It doesn't fix everything. Like Bitcoin doesn't fix everything. Doesn't fix everything because human are human. But at least there's a chance for having a more honest system that can reward people properly based on their contribution, instead of in the current system. I think a lot of incentives are misaligned, and it's just very hard. I think the whole system is tilted toward one direction.
Interesting. Yeah, let's double click on that a bit. And I think like if we start at the very beginning, right? Like the mortgage-backed securities of the great financial crisis, this idea of like, I trust you, bro, economy where everyone thinks someone else has vetted the risk and trust puts trust over truth, right? I think we continue to see stuff like that, right? Just recently I read about this like tricolor private credit situation where they double pledged the collateral and nobody knew that it was double pledged, right? And suddenly you have like a terrible bad credit situation. I think the team at Figure is doing a good job of kind of like building markets that are built on, like I always say, truth, not trust, which I think aligns with that. And then I think like the other point that you made, like on like, I don't know, crypto is like an instrument of like, I don't want to say redistribution of wealth, but like quality of opportunity in the developed world. And Peter Thiel just put out an article that capitalism is failing the young generation, which is essentially kind of like along the lines of what you've said. Do you see that also reflected in the user base? Like, are mostly young people or people from like economically weak regions using OKX's products?
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a higher likelihood for the younger generation to really embrace this concept because it does challenge a lot of the pre-assumptions that we've had for our lifetime, and it's just too new, right? So we do see that. We do see a lot more of our retail customers being in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. But we also have actually customers who are in more advanced age, but still have that open mindset and actually end up embracing it. And we do have actually quite a few of them sometimes reach out to me as well. So we do see that. But I think that just on a high level, if you look at the general distribution, yes, I think that's what you said is right.
Gotcha. And let's jump into your journey at OKX, right? Like when you joined, I think it was still called OKCoin. Walk us through that rebrand. Like what was behind that, and why did you decide to merge the two brands at that point in time?
Yeah, I joined in 2019, and I was leading the team to grow our OKCoin business globally, which is a regulated business. So we primarily had it in the US, and Europe, and Singapore, Asia, where we basically build the business based on with license and compliance and risk infrastructure. In parallel, we also have another platform called OKX that is crypto only. About 4 years ago, it was 2020, 2021. We decided that the right strategy, instead of having two separate platforms, two separate products, two separate teams to pursue and build the product, centralized product in parallel, one with fiat, one without, one with fiat and licenses, one without fiat and licenses, we thought that the right thing to do is to actually build just one integrated platform. Because one, we see that for a centralized platform, being regulated is the right thing to do, and it's coming. We saw that clearly written on the wall. So we decided to proactively embrace it. And two, we have also seen the kind of the market signal where we are actually looking at customers on the retail side. They want local team, they want the local touch, they want local support. And they appreciate brands who are committed enough to that local markets to actually build it properly. So we made that decision. And there are many other reasons in terms of product synergy, in terms of branding synergy. We rebrand the product to OKX from OKX, and that have been well received. And so we think that there is a lot of synergy there, and we want to be able to also build our infrastructure, compliance and risk infrastructure at a larger scale for the broader centralized platform. Fast forward, it's been 4 years now. I think, we're very happy with that decision and business strategy decision. We have been consistently executing on that. We've got our regulated product and business launched and actually running with some initial success in multiple jurisdictions, including Europe, US, UAE, Singapore, Australia, and Bahamas. And at the same time, in parallel, we also heavily invest in our self-custody wallet and Web3 product, because we think that these two, centralized and decentralized is the future. We want to continue to invest in that future. And then centralized is the very important bridge. And it's a competitive advantage that we think that we are building to combine the two worlds and be able to actually offer the upside of both worlds to our customers in a way that we think is the best to our communities. We've been doing that, and we're very happy with what we have been able to deliver so far.
No, and I agree. I think you guys are doing a great job on the brand. I'm a big fan of the Formula One sponsorship, of course. I'm a fan of the sport. Nico Rosberg was an early investor in Ivy, so we've stayed close to the intersection of crypto and Formula One. And I agree. Like when you talk about, hey, this being like competitive advantage, would you say like this is like a USP in like the classic sense that like you believe it's a differentiator in the broader opportunity space that OKX is doing well and continues to invest on the decentralized side of the business?
I think so. I think I think we're very unique in the sense that we really bring the best sides of both worlds to our customer. We offer a very strong self-custody wallet with the best-in-class DEX aggregator out there that is compatible with, the largest amount of chains out there. So really, I think that strong belief in interoperability and open ecosystem underlines how we actually build our self-custody wallet and decentralized kind of product suite that we offer to our customers. And on the other hand, we also have, I think, the most global and high growth regulated centralized product platform. Again, we are a leading platform in UAE. We're building our product in Europe, in Brazil, in Turkey, in Singapore, in Australia. And in all these jurisdictions, we have a very clear roadmap in terms of license application, getting the license, building the right infrastructure. And then we build a very competitive product that is really prioritizing the local community needs. It's, very much local design led. Like, for example, we just launched OKX Card in Brazil last week, and that was very much Brazilian catered, even if the product itself, OKX Card, which is basically built on OKX Pay, that bring within our product ecosystem, we actually, with OKX Card and OKX Pay, we bring our centralized infrastructure and our CeFi and our DeFi self-custody wallet technology together to bring that convenience of a centralized product as well as kind of a self-control of a DeFi product to the customer, but with a Brazilian in mind, in terms of how we think about, the compliance risk management in that market, and also more importantly, what our local community actually wants with this particular card, how they're going to use it. So I think we really have that in our warehouse to offer to the customer. And we believe that hopefully over time, we'll be able to really build that into something even stronger, particularly, strapping, the good of both worlds and bring that suite of product power to our customer. Yeah.
Yeah. No, awesome. So basically summarizing the journey, you've been at Goldman and TradFi, you've been invested in the original OKX entity, came on board and led OKCoin, that regulated centralized offering, and now are president of the combined group. Maybe just to sum up the journey, what does a president do? It's such a varied role. I think it can mean very different things at different companies. What are the top 3 things that you're most focused on this year?
My priority always evolve, but I think very importantly, one is about aligning our business execution with the company vision and STAR's vision, and make sure that we actually, build properly to align our talent not just talent philosophy, but also actually leadership bench with that vision so that we can actually deliver and execute properly. And then 3, really, over the last 3 to 4 years, my focus has always really been kind of building that capability of delivering and bridging the best practice in TradFi, compliance and risk and governance control, and combine that with our capability within the organization to innovate, but at the same time also to build on a scalable basis, enable our local team to really be the decision maker and drive a lot of decisions. There are a lot of institutional muscle that we have to build as well. So that's another part, the third part that I have spent a lot of my time into. Ultimately, a lot of the work that has been done have been done by our team. And I'm very proud that we have a very strong and increasingly strong team, both at the local level as well as at the global level. We've had a lot of new leaders over the last 4 years who have joined us and leave their mark. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I'm excited to unpack these 3 kind of like priority areas for you a bit. If you think about like building the leadership bench, as you've put it, what is most important to you when you're hiring and assessing leaders at OKX?
Well, that's a great question. Let me start with saying that I've made a lot of mistakes. I'll be the first one to admit that I've made a lot of mistakes in hiring. I think the biggest lesson I have learned is that particularly when you look for the talents who can work alongside the team and build for the long term, these hard skills are important, but hard skills are just threshold. Personality and soft skills are actually what will make or break a talent in the organization. And there are things that we look for and I look for that are non-negotiable. Like, for example, whether this person is passionate enough, that is non-negotiable. Not necessarily passionate about crypto itself, that is important, but also passionate about what they do. The person has to have that drive and initiative to care enough about what they do. Because otherwise we are all adults. We cannot force people or convince people to do certain things. It has to come within. So I think that drive, that passion, that pursuit of excellence and standards that individuals hold for themselves in terms of what they deliver is non-negotiable. I think the second thing is the open mindset is non-negotiable. The self-awareness, the ability to continue to iterate and rewrite our own operational framework is non-negotiable because we are in such a evolving industry. There are a lot of things we don't know. And right, Bitcoin and, all the crypto assets, like it very much touches many disciplines, and you have to keep an open mind and learn from other people. And also from organizational perspective, every year as we continue to build and grow, we as a team end up learning new things about ourselves. Every individual at some point will get to our comfort zone, and we will get to a point where we have to step outside our comfort zone. And anyone who doesn't have that open mindset and who cannot actually push themselves out of their comfort zone and learn things that they didn't know or know what they're not good at and actually deal with that honestly, will have a hard time growing with us and helping us grow. So I think that growth mindset is the second most important thing that we look at. And it's also non-negotiable. Does someone have that low ego? Can he actually be brutally honest with himself or herself? But yeah, those 2 are probably the most important, like non-negotiable things that I look for. And then there are other things that we look for, but those 2 are probably the most important things.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you then tie like the talent philosophy into the regulatory rollout, right, and the expansion and localization plans, what's your philosophy here? Are you going to hire, or are you hiring local MDs who run these as ring-fenced operations, or are you trying to kind of centralize as much of the capability as possible into the global organization?
It's always a balance. And for us, we continue to build our global talent pool for sure. And for all central functions, I think that the talent bar continue to rise. And we're also very excited to actually see an increasing amount of outstanding talents, reaching out and want to actually work with us. At the local level, we also have a very high bar for our talents, and we have been very fortunate to be able to actually have local CEOs in all jurisdictions where we run our business in US, in Europe, Dubai, Australia, Singapore, Bahamas, pretty much all jurisdictions where we have, and Brazil and Turkey. All jurisdictions where we have local entities, we have a local CEO who actually who function as the local CEO who has his own local team across functions. But those local team also work with the global team. When I say it's a balance, right, it's more one book that I really like, and I actually have been promoting it internally on multiple occasions, is called Team of Teams. And I think it kind of reflects where we are at this stage as well. If we can actually build that, one is, people of high caliber at both local and global level. And two, a organizational fabric that we're actually building and reshaping, honestly, from what we were before into a team where our people are all very builder minded. And they all have that builder and framework mindset. So really what comes down to is our leaders at both local and global level. They all look at things where we can abstract out of our execution and build into our framework. Then those framework are productized. And then on top of that productized global framework, then we actually give our local team ability and more flexibility to actually localize, to operate, to change on, and execute on the ground. So that's basically how we have been up.
I appreciate that. One last thought and question on the whole topic of building trust through compliance and governance before we jump into a short quickfire round of questions. You were one of the first, if not the first, to publish on-chain proof of reserves. I think 35, 36 audits in, and it's been one of these big kind of trust drivers for the brand. What are other things that you're thinking about or that you're executing right now on this agenda and mission to build trust and use that as a competitive advantage?
That's a great topic. I do believe that when we talked about TradFi, I think it still applies in our industry. Particularly, should not be taken for granted. Trust should be earned, and trust should be earned on a constant basis, and trust should be verifiable on a constant basis. So I think that is a fundamental philosophy and belief that we have as an organization. So I think because of that, the fact that we have been investing very heavily in the self-custody technology and the wallet and product infrastructure, and continue to kind of build the community in that direction is an important, actually a critical piece of how we actually view trust. Because we do believe that giving our community the option to choose is an important checks and balance on the centralized platform, ourselves included. And then I think on the centralized platform, there are multiple things that are important for building and maintaining trust. I think the proof of reserve is important because of exactly the amount of transparency you put out there on chain for people to actually verify for themselves. Even if not everyone actually go to verify, at least the fact that it can be verified very easily by anyone out there in itself, I think it's a control system in place. And then I think the fact that getting licenses in all key jurisdictions and subjecting us to those regulatory oversight is also an important check and balance, right? Because the regulators actually are there to help us make sure that we're not missing something. We don't have a blind spot. We have regular review and visit on site. And then internally, we also have different layers. We have our execution team in the first line of defense, but then we also have second line and third line, audit and risk and compliance, who would do checks and balance within the organization and check the security, check the compliance of infrastructure, check risk management. I think the fundamental philosophies do not take things for granted. It has nothing to do with whether you are trustable or not. I think the matter of making sure that we actually have a system, have multiple control in place to actually verify what people are saying instead of just assuming that what they say is actually being done is important, because you never know, right? And people make mistakes. And the more we actually build those controls into the system, the better, the safer. Yeah. and it's safer for us as well. So we take all those, very seriously.
Yeah, replacing trust with truth is how I always like to think about it. Let's jump into a quick round of quickfire questions. I'm just going to shoot 2 or 3 questions and we're going to get the answer. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Talking about international rollout, what's the region you're most excited to conquer next?
Wow, that's a tough question as the first one. What's the most exciting region to conquer next? We actually have launched quite a few markets over the last 3 years. We started with Brazil, then we opened Turkey. We got our VARA license, so we launched in UAE. We got a Singapore license with MAS, so we launched in Singapore, and then earlier this year re-entered US. So with all these markets, I think we're very early. We have made some initial progress in all these markets. To see good growth momentum in some markets. We're actually ranked pretty high in terms of customer community feedback and customer scoring compared to both global platforms as well as local platforms. So we're very proud of that, for example, in Brazil and in Dubai and Singapore. However, we're still very early stage in all of these markets, and we see a lot of opportunity for us to continue to develop our product. And sorry, I think I forgot Europe as well, Mika, which we also had it in early this year. We still have a lot of work to do in all these markets because we continue to work on our product experience, improving customer experience and their onboarding, making sure that we actually offer competitive product. We offer a unique product. The fact that we actually launched OKX Pay in Singapore doing token and also OKX Card in Brazil last week as a part of our product innovation. So we have quite a few product innovation that we are pushing out. And I hope that those will also showcase our commitment to our vision of really bringing more economic freedom and creating more use cases beyond trading use case. Trading use case is a valid use case, but we also believe in enriching that ecosystem. So we're all very excited about all these critical markets and also Asia, and we continue to grow. So I wouldn't say we are going to launch a new market per se. I think we continue to work in these because we're just getting started. It's the first phase. After launch, we have a lot of optimization that we need to do. And we also continue to build our local team under these local CEOs. So I'm very excited about what we can deliver in the next a year and 2. It's going to be at least 5-year efforts in all these markets to really grow locally, to build that local connection and make sure that we're actually doing what the local community wants us to do for them. Yeah. So I think it's going to be at least a 5-year efforts.
What's the most underhyped thing in crypto right now?
Underhyped. I think people are underestimating what Bitcoin will do. I think there's a lot of momentum there's a stablecoin and payment adoption, institutional adoption. And based on that stablecoin infrastructure, real world assets and institutional adoption of stablecoin infrastructure will allow them to decrease operational efficiency, but also more efficiently and effectively reach a larger audience because a digital dollar just move faster. But at the same time, I think Bitcoin obviously has got a lot of institutional endorsement. I really believe that with stablecoin getting more widely adopted, I think people will be surprised how that actually feed into wider adoption of Bitcoin. And it may come pretty swiftly. At some point, but we'll see. I'm always bullish on Bitcoin, but I've been thinking about this, and I think that the stablecoin narrative will actually help.
Interesting. I think there's like a counter. There's an opposing view somewhere where Bitcoin is the original, clean, decentralized, ideologically pure narrative, and stablecoins are kind of like the enemy of that, the centralized alternative. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that the infrastructure maturity that will be probably propelled by stablecoin will also help Bitcoin as well.
No, that makes sense. And one last one, what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone that's entering crypto in 2025?
You ask great questions. I have I have been in the industry for long enough that I think I'm very much aware of what I can and cannot do. I think giving people advice is not something that I'm particularly good at. But I think one thing that I learned from myself is sometimes we may think that markets are crazy. Sometimes we may think that people are crazy. But what I have learned is that as individuals, there are so many things we don't know and so many things we don't understand. And it's very dangerous to wipe aside something that we don't understand and say people are stupid, people are silly, people are emotional. Anything that has happened has its own reason, and it's just like we don't understand it yet. So I think that the amount of humbleness is healthy humbleness is something that, particularly when you are, new to the space, is something that we should know. Like if you don't understand it, don't write it off as this is crazy, this is a scam, people are stupid. There's probably something behind it that you don't know, you don't understand. And if that's the case, better find a way to learn and challenge our assumptions and try to appreciate why.
I appreciate that. Hong, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed the conversation. This was lots of fun, unpacking the journey, unpacking the present and the future of OKX, where we're going to take the platform. And thanks so much for joining us, and looking forward to speak soon.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great pleasure too.